The DOJ's handling of this release is peculiar. Those files posted yesterday were available for hours. Then they were removed at 8 p.m. Then they were reposted around midnight, which gives you an idea of what it's like to work at Trump's DOJ in this Christmas week. The files also reveal an email from an investigator who said they had a photo of Trump with Maxwell while searching Bannon's phone.
Donald Trump's own employees are now saying it. Saying what we have known from the beginning, that this Epstein cover-up didn't just begin in the past couple of months. It didn't even just begin in Donald Trump's first administration. Trump has been covering up his crimes that he committed alongside Epstein, the very public relationship that they had for decades, because he knew its ability to bring him down. And that is what one of Donald Trump's former pageant employees is now saying about the crimes that we need to look into Donald Trump's disgusting, well-documented behavior towards children. And we are going to get into it all. Before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video, and if you haven't already, and you enjoy our channel, to hit that subscribe button, because it goes a long way supporting our work. Now, before we get into what this former Trump employee had to say about the bombshell that we need to be talking about as it relates to Trump's pageants, I think we have to start with the latest batch of Epstein files that shine a light on what has been covered up by the DOJ and why this story, which has gotten not nearly enough attention, needs to be talked about much more.
What has been requested and now mandated under law is more information, not less. More documents, not hiding documents. And then you can add context. Now, the DOJ's handling of this release is peculiar. Those files posted yesterday were available for hours. Then they were removed at 8 p.m. Then they were reposted around midnight, which gives you an idea of what it's like to work at Trump's DOJ in this Christmas week. The files also reveal an email from an investigator who said they had a photo of Trump with Maxwell while searching Bannon's phone. Again, that's interesting to say the least. The investigator included the photo, but that was redacted. There was an uproar over the photos removed from the DOJ's website, which were also then restored. If you see from the headlines and the point here, this has been a bungled operation and at times an illegal cover-up. That's just the facts tonight. Now, one of the photos was inside Epstein's home and it had that Trump image as part of a personal collection. You see it there. Of all the things that have come out in this Epstein story, what you see the arrow pointing at is not exactly the worst thing for Donald Trump in terms of public embarrassment, and yet they took it down and then put it back up. Survivors have been speaking out.
I am no longer supporting this administration. I am so disgusted with this administration. I think that Pam Bondi and Kash Patel both need to resign, and I would love to see number 47 get impeached over this.
We went from, very happy, very excited, where we've reached somewhere, to now being very disappointed. It's come to the point where we can't even trust our government.
Those are the voices of survivors. They can't trust their government even after they led an actual movement, I don't know what else you would call it, of survivors and their allies and others interested in truth in the story, as well as a bipartisan coalition in Congress. And that movement went from, hey, you're never going to see anything and get a vote, to forcing the president to sign that law because they already had a veto-proof majority. The voices of the survivors you hear have achieved a lot this year as we end in this odd Christmas week, this Epstein document dump week. They've achieved a lot. But you can see their work's not done. They're still pressing because what we're witnessing in real time, as we've been reporting since Friday night, is an illegal cover-up in plain sight, a bungled cover-up, problems with posting, taking down, reposting, redactions, putting up slices of material and then adding real-time tweets about it as if they haven't had all this time to prepare. And so what you see there is a DOJ and more widely a Trump administration under pressure. It doesn't look organized because it's not. It doesn't look honest because, as we've reported on the evidence, in many times and cases, it has not been honest. And the survivors and the Congress that has pushed this, they've made it clear they are not done.
I will continue to say that what isn't in the Epstein files, to me, even as we continue to see these documents cause so many problems for this administration, leave Donald Trump scrambling and tweeting into the early hours of the morning. What isn't in the files could be more damaging than what is, because what isn't in the files is all of the young girls who the FBI, the DOJ, who they didn't take seriously. We saw the Maria Farmer letter to the FBI, that the testimony she gave of the abuse. and she underwent the reporting of Jeffrey Epstein that was not taken seriously. There must have been so many accounts of the powerful men who were involved in this cabal of criminals who were not called out. And stories of their abuse were not taken seriously. And those will continue to come out, especially at one of the places in which it seemed as if Epstein, alongside Trump, was practicing their disgusting grooming. And that was at Trump's own beauty pageants, which one of his former employees is now going public about right here.
Now, I've sat on this information for years, and I really didn't want to get into this because this is not in my job description, and it's very dangerous to come out with this publicly. The smoking gun is Miss USA and Miss Teen USA, the pageants which Donald Trump owned for years. Now, how do I know? Because I was one of the judges in these pageants. I trained dozens and dozens of the winners and the runners-up in public speaking to promote their platform. This is all I'm going to say about this. If you're in the media and you're looking for information, start with Billy Bush. Billy Bush hosted the Miss USA, Miss Teen USA multiple times. Nancy O'Dell is another one. And then go down the rabbit hole from there. There are people that know a lot more than those two, but start there. They're celebrities, and start there, go down the rabbit hole. And I think what you're going to find is going to be very, very upsetting. Don't call me. I'm not going to comment. I'm not going on TV and talking about this. This is very dangerous to sit on. If you decide to pursue this in the media, be very, very careful. These people are dangerous.
I completely understand, especially with this administration willing to do whatever the fear that someone must have in telling their story. It is the same thing that Ro Khanna and Thomas Massie say about these incredibly brave survivors of Epstein, that they are afraid to share the long list of men who worked and abused them, worked alongside Epstein to cover up or a part of this cabal of criminals. They are afraid. And an administration that allows political violence and allows white-collar criminals to walk free and to stay in five-star resort jails like Ghislaine Maxwell. I completely understand, but this is the insight that we need. Just the direction of look right there. And to talk about not just Miss USA, but Miss Teen USA and how Trump behaved. And we already know it's well documented that his own wife was warning a mother of the danger that her 14-year-old was in. This is beginning to crack open a lot of what we have suspected this whole time. And it is why I continue to say that this cover-up didn't just start. It didn't just now start. Donald Trump's second administration has been going on, not just in the first as well, but for decades now. And these are the types of events that we need to look into. We need to be getting testimony. We need to be subpoenaing these records, that there needs to be more action taken to dive not just into the files themselves, but what direction they are leading us down. And these pageants and Trump's disgusting and I suspect criminal behavior is absolutely something that needs to be talked about more. It is raising real questions about Donald Trump's criminality. It's raising real questions, again, about how many co-conspirators were involved with Epstein, what Trump's role was in this operation. I continue to say that his closeness to Ghislaine Maxwell is something that I don't think it's talked about enough. I know you could say that about so much of these Epstein files, but Ghislaine Maxwell is viewed as this individual who's like kind of accessory to Epstein and maybe just like, hung out with him and push the paper and cook the books. But she herself was a criminal, and she had a real role in this operation that is completely overlooked. And Trump individually spending time with her means that he wasn't just like palming around. And I know that's a disgusting description of the criminal action that they were engaged in. But there's this idea, I think, that Trump was just like palming around with Epstein, and they were committing their crimes, and they were hanging out, and they were at parties. But that is a underselling, I think, of what could be really happening, which could be drawn. Donald Trump is a part of the cabal, and not just in the way that he behaved in the crimes that he committed, but the organization of it all. And that is what's suggested to me when we're talking about these pageants, is the organization that Trump could have been involved in. And that is obviously, all of this is disgusting and criminal, but that is a much deeper element, right? If Donald Trump was part of grooming and finding and giving these girls to Epstein, we know that Trump bought one from Epstein after she aged out of his demo. So why wouldn't it go the other way around? Why wouldn't we do a flip on that? Why wouldn't he also be giving girls to Epstein? It seems like that's what their relationship was, but that's what I think needs to be looked at more. And so does Jasmine Crocker, who has been consistent in calling this all out.
I mean, for everybody that thinks that it's a mistake or thinks that the timing isn't questionable about the fact that we got out on Friday and instead of us actually being in, and it just so happened to coincide with the day that the DOJ was supposed to do their production. I mean, this is all obviously an effort that not only the speaker is involved in, we obviously have the DOJ and the White House involved in this cover-up. And so, you know, we'll see. Will Mike Johnson have his members under control to the extent that we're unable to get the numbers? But we know that this speaker is willing to shut down the House if it means protecting this corrupt president and his administration.
Congresswoman, have you been in touch with any of the Epstein survivors since these documents came out? And if so, what have you heard from them?
No, I have not. Obviously, we had the release once we were released from our duty. We were released on Thursday, and I've not been in touch with them since then, no.
Congresswoman, we had one of the survivors, Liz Stein, on earlier, and she talked about the fact that we keep hearing from people in the White House, at DOJ, that they are in touch with survivors. But she says, to her knowledge, not only has she not actually been contacted or given the opportunity to have a phone call, but that the many survivors that she's in touch with, talking to basically every single day, that they haven't had that chance to have a real conversation with the people who are supposed to be investigating this, leading the way on this. Why do you think that is?
I mean, I think we all know why it is, but I appreciate the question. You know, these are people that are more interested in covering for pedophiles than they are seeking justice for these survivors. And that's actually how we all got here. I mean, I think that, yes, it was great that he went out, he made a campaign promise. But as we know, this president is good at making promises and terrible on actually following through on those promises. We know that part of the reason that there was a rift between Donald Trump and truly one of his most loyal supporters, Marjorie Taylor Greene, was actually over this very issue. I mean, Marjorie was trying to make sure that the president was in touch with the survivors and would sit down with the survivors. She was trying to be a go-between, something that I could never be for this particular president, and she was unsuccessful. And instead, he decided to call her a traitor. He decided to go against her. So it is clear that this administration knows that this president is involved as it relates to these Epstein files. In how many ways, we don't know. But we know that they are willing to do everything that they can to cover for him. And frankly, the people that are still standing by him, honestly, I don't think that it really matters what all he did. They're going to stand by him anyway. And they could actually move on from this if they would just go ahead and be transparent instead of doing things that put the survivors into a worse position, instead of actually allowing those donors of his, those friends of his, those other powerful men that still may be involved.
It's humiliation after humiliation on the way. And I can't wait to cover them. We're going to on this show. If you want to support that, as always, you can hit that subscribe button, leave a like on this video. If you stuck around at the end, drop a blue heart in the comments. Keep on fighting, y'all. Don't let him silence you until next time. I'll see you soon.